You're listening to the A Bit From Within podcast with Felicia Marty. That's the thing I've learned, is that just because something is scary, it doesn't mean it has to be bad. It doesn't mean that it's not going to work out. It doesn't mean that it needs to fill me with dread. Every single time I did one of those things, it was one of my favorite life experiences. Every scary thing that I have done has been worth it. Hello there, and thank you so much for joining me today for a new episode of the A Bit From Within podcast. My name is Felicia. I am a self-care specialist as well as a certified astrologer, and every single week I come here to share a little bit from within with you. One of the things I am most passionate about in this life is helping other people to understand that little shifts, whether it's in your thinking, your behaviors, and your approach, can lead to really big changes in your life. And I do that through all of my self-care work, mindfulness tools, teaching yoga, teaching guided meditation, and quite a bit through my astrology. So I have a TikTok channel where I talk a lot about astrology and I do some readings for people. And the theme that continues to come up every single reading I have with a new client or even a past client as well is that the more that we learn to accept ourselves for who we truly are, then we can empower the areas of our life that we want to transform in alignment with our spirits. So, gosh, I have a lot to share on that today. Lots of big changes going on, swirling through my life right now. And I'm hearing this across the board. You know, a couple of weeks ago, I was mentioning that the closer we get towards March, the more things are going to speed up. And that's looking through that astrological lens. And I'm feeling that right now. And I know a lot of other people are too. So before we get into everything, and I'll catch you guys up and share a little bit from within, let's actually talk about a little bit of what is happening astrologically right now. We are starting this week with the first quarter moon. So if you have had a chance to peek up into the sky recently, you've probably seen that it's starting to brighten just a little bit. We're going to be halfway to that full moon, tomorrow, starting off this week. And the thing is, if you look up into the sky and you see that half moon shape, like a full half moon, that means that we are either at a first quarter moon or a last quarter moon. And astrologically, when those places happen, it is usually a moment of action needed in your life. Sometimes what creates the need for action could be a conflict or a tension or a problem that needs to be solved. So that's one way that we are starting this week, is with this need to create action. That said, I think there's a lot of ways that we can actually go about doing this. And what I wanted to weave in is a little bit of this Pisces self-care lens. Because we have been having our new moons right when the sun changes sun signs. So sun moved into Pisces and then boom, we had the Pisces new moon. I didn't get a chance to really tell you a little bit more about Pisces and about Pisces self-care. One thing that I'm really big on and that I include in every single lunar self-care guide that comes out each month is a page and a half on how to use wherever the sun is at in the sky for that kind of themed self-care throughout the entire month. So let's talk about, what does Pisces self-care even look like? A few things we have to remember. Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac, and it marks the final month of winter. So there's a lot of elements of closure that come with Pisces, and not in a way of like just slamming doors shut, but in this very spiritual way. Like you've come to this deep place of understanding. You've come to this deep place where you can let go, where you can move through the world with your heart wide open, being in one with your intuition, being in one with nature, being at one with feeling, with I already said intuition, but that's a big one. So for this water-inspired self-care, because Pisces is a water sign, so how can we look to the water element for some ideas for this month's self-care? Well, the first thing I like to think of when we're thinking of water-specific self-care is slowing down and carving out more alone time. If you can do those things over the course of the next, well, until about March 20th, right, when we officially move into spring, you're going to tap into a very personal part of yourself. It's going to hopefully feel a little bit more natural right now while the sun is in Pisces. So, of course, this can look a lot of different ways. One of the things that I suggest is creating a really calm and quiet environment, someplace where you can really go to retreat to. That could look a lot of different ways. That could look like a special blanket that you're just going to put out on the couch that reminds you, oh yeah, I want to curl up there at least a few times a week and just really read a book or journal or look out the window or listen to music, something like that. Another great way to do this is to move your body. If you've ever had a yoga practice or some sort of movement practice that you can flow with, so maybe that's swimming, but I tend to think of yoga, obviously, from being a yoga teacher, and I do teach a lot of gentle yoga, so this truly is a great time for that as well, because yoga is such a spiritual practice, and Pisces is such a spiritual sign. And getting in touch with flow, it can look a lot of different ways. If you're not really into yoga, that doesn't mean you can't move your body organically. So one of the things I like to say is just let your body move. Like even just doing like big hip circles while you're standing there brushing your teeth, that's fine. It doesn't have to be fancy. Gentle stretches through the body to create space, to create opening. This is perfect all the time, but especially right now as you're just taking this time to quiet down in your self-care. Spiritual practices of all kinds, so reading spiritual books, praying, journaling, meditating, maybe doing some tarot cards or angel cards or some kind of oracle card, staying connected with your own spiritual communities. So whether that's going to church or going to nature as your sanctuary, whatever that looks like, and just being open to signs from the universe. I will say one of my favorite pieces of this is that it is so easy this time of year to get swept away with the light that's pouring in. The more we get towards spring, we're going to have daylight savings, we're going to start getting more light, and we start to feel the pace of life really quicken. But I think it's really important to continue to be where you are, to remember that even while things pick up in your life, there is something to be said for being rooted, for going slowly, for letting yourself reawaken or come to a new place of awakening in your life, especially after everything that you've maybe been through this last astrological year, which started last spring. And, one of the things that I love about astrology and love about, all of this work is that there are so many beautiful moments where we can bookmark and reflect. And this is another one of those moments. We just came through, the New Year's moment, and we've had several really great new moon moments with that. But right now we're getting ready to start a new astrological year. So continue, if you feel called to it, to really just take time to reflect. Remember, you're not the same person that you were. This is one of the things I'm going to share more about today, but that I've been really working with myself is I'm not the same person that I used to be. I continue to evolve with intention, continuing to move to be the person that I've been striving to become. And so allowing myself to step into that, allowing myself to flow into that place right now, especially as a lot of change begins to move through my life. So I hope that speaks to you. I hope that you feel encouraged by that. Tell all of your Pisces friends happy birthday. They're celebrating birthdays right now. And let's just keep that in mind as you move through the next few weeks. All right, you guys, let's take a quick break. And when we come back, I've got a lot to catch you up on. So first things first, if you have been listening for a little while, then you know that I have been desperately searching for a full-time job for the last, I started my search 4 months ago. In October was the first time I applied for a job that I was very confident I was going to get, and very quickly learned that it was not going to be that easy. This has been a very interesting process. If you're new around here, I'll give you the cliff notes. I have been a wedding photographer for the past, this would be my 11th year. And I've been running a full-time business for the past 6 years. And I decided in December of 2021 that I was ready. For many reasons in my life, I just felt like it was time for me to close that chapter. And it was very, very difficult because I have so many amazing clients and I've built a very successful business. And it's hard to basically, one, make a huge career transition, but two, just to actually follow through with putting those things into place when it takes a long time for it to unfold. So this last year of 2022 was a huge transition year for me. Mostly I was very resolute and focused on my customers and the business, and then just putting things slowly, every single month, new things would go into motion towards this being the ending of this part of my life. So as the season started to wind down in October, I had a couple of other weddings on deck, but nothing too insane. I started applying for jobs. I had previously worked doing sales and an account management for a tech company. And so I thought, that's what I want to get back to. And it's really funny because I'll just get into it. What better place do I have to get into it all than right here with you? When I think about how everything happens for a reason, if we rewind just a tiny bit more than in December when I had this revelation, but 4 months prior, my boyfriend, my partner of the past 6.5 years, David, got really sick. And he was working full time with me with our business. He was the lead videographer for Felicia Marty Photo Video. And it quickly exploded kind of our life because he couldn't work. He needed to take care of himself full time. We were in a really tough place with our insurance, really high deductible, small business kind of self-employment kind of insurance plan. And our lives blew up like financially, with his health, with me still trying to run the business. It got really intense really fast. And that, of course, changed things. It changed us forever. And when we realized, okay, we can't make it if Dave doesn't also have the ability to bring in money, we didn't have enough money so that we could just take care of him without him also getting a lot of the video work done. He was like, okay, I've got to find a different job. So he went back into tech. And he found a fully remote position where he can work from home, and he's doing a job that he is so good at and works with an amazing company. And that was just like this absolute saving grace moment in our lives. He started in January of last year, 2022. So as I watched him over the, first 5-6 months of 2022, I just realized, oh my gosh, what he's doing is exactly what I want to be doing next. A lot of that had to do with just being able to work from home, the idea of being here, being able to, take care of the things around the house, our lives, and still be able to have really meaningful connections with other coworkers, clients, all of that. And just the steadiness of his paycheck each month. That is especially what I had been severely lacking in my life as a full-time business owner. They say you should be able to pay yourself if you're a business owner. Well, and that's well and great. And I have, of course, but I run a seasonal business. There's specific times of year where there's a lot more money coming in than others. There's a lot more money coming out when I have weddings. It's a seasonal business. And so I've always been fine, but the yearly roller coaster that is finances is extremely taxing it was extremely taxing on me. And so as soon as I felt a taste of that security, I was like, aha, that is exactly what I want. And I just could feel it. So as October got closer and I applied for this job I was sure I was going to get, and had a great initial first interview. And then it just went cold. It went very cold, which was, of course, a bummer. And I just thought, okay, well, maybe, it's a slow time of year, or well, something will turn up. And I found out through the person who recommended me for that position that they actually had froze the role. They never even filled it. It got froze. And at that point I was like, okay, like maybe this is going to be a little trickier than I thought it was going to be. I know that probably sounds really naive to share, but it's true. I was very hopeful, and I started to ask around. That was one of the things that I wanted to do differently at this point in my life is I wanted to use my network of people. I knew that being quiet about what I wanted wasn't going to work. I knew I needed to kind of know what I want and put it out there. So I put it out there, got a lot of great leads. I got on LinkedIn. I spent a month, just applying as much as I could, following up on referrals, doing the whole thing. And then, of course, like November came, Thanksgiving came, and I was like, all right, got to keep going. I'm going to keep applying. And then I was like, well, it doesn't make any sense to keep going as December was like halfway through December was rolling around. I'm like, these people are not going to be looking at anything that comes in right now. A lot of roles are frozen. Holidays are coming up. Okay, let's just get through this holiday season. And then, of course, Mercury went into retrograde. So I continued to apply all through January, but I was not very hopeful, to be honest. I just knew what I was up against with a Mercury in retrograde. I knew that it was going to feel like energy was a little bit backwards. I didn't want to put that tone into any of those meetings. So I kept applying, but I was just trying to be really cautious and careful. Well, that ended in like January 18th or whatnot. And then we had the January 21st new moon. And I was like, I'm grabbing the bull by the horns. We've got no personal planets in retrograde. I am manifesting this job. It is going to happen. I started doing tapping. So EFT, it stands for Emotional Freedom Technique. And basically what you do is you tap with your two fingers together on different points of your body. And it just helps you kind of reprogram what's happening in your brain. So I would tap for about 7 minutes a day. I was along with this YouTube video on attracting a job with a high paying salary. And I started doing that every single day. I started doing like a 3-6-9 where like in the morning I'd write what I want to manifest 3 times. At lunch I'd do it 6 times. And in the evening I'd do it 9 times. I will say with that, I probably did that at least one solid week and then a couple of times here and there. But that was probably a little bit of a less of a manifestation practice. But when I was thinking of it, I did do that. And then, of course, I put my nose to the ground and I literally spent 40 hours a week searching for a job. I've literally applied to over 300 different companies. I have created so many versions of my resume. I have written so many cover letters. I went through the gamut. And it was rough. I cannot tell you how many times I cried when I got rejection letters. And I'm going to be honest, like this was a grueling process because I'm just going to get super vulnerable here with you guys. Like I have been a business owner for the past 6 years and I have grown my business. I have doubled my year-over-year revenue for multiple years. I have had amazing success with hiring people to work with me and work for me and grow this amazing thing that we do, helping people capture such special moments in their lives. I handle it all. I do all of the marketing. I do all of the invoicing. I do all of my, I'm not my own bookkeeper, but I have to keep my books. I had an assistant for a while that was amazing. And she helped me with, my calendar and all of that things. But I did all of the sales contracts. I literally run a legitimate business and I know a lot about a lot of different things. I'm a jack of all trades and I have poured myself, into this business. And the thing is like for me, I guess I can't say every single business owner does this, but for me, my work as a business owner was way more than 40 hours a week. It was probably on average 65 to 70 hours a week, constantly being available, constantly having your schedule change, constant flexibility, solving all of the problems yourself. Like, the reason I say this is I'm very, very proud of what I did. And I had two things going against me. One, it is very hard to put all of that into like a catchy resume. Two, no matter how badass that is, which I'm going to just say, I think it's really badass. For some reason, it does not translate very well on a resume or with a corporate hiring manager. And that really sucks. Like, that's just what it is. I know that a lot of people, one, there's a ton of competition out there right now, but two, I know that there are a lot of people who wouldn't even give my resume a deeper look because they just saw, oh, she runs her own business, or her name is the same name as her business. I mean, I have regretted so many things through this job process. I've regretted naming my business with my name on it. Don't do that. If you have the option to, don't do that. And there's been a part of me that even regretted choosing to be a business owner at all, because I just felt like this would have been so much easier if I wasn't trying to overcome that battle too. And like I said, I don't fully mean that, because I'm so proud of what I've done, and I love that I will be able to look back for my whole life and know that I could do that. And I did do it, and I had a great time and an amazing adventure while I did it. But while I was going through this process, it was extremely grueling and frustrating, and it felt like in some ways that maybe I had made the wrong career decision. And I really hated that, because I really wanted to stay in that place of feeling really proud of who I am and what I've done and the path that I've taken. So like I said, I'm doing 40 hours a week trying to manifest this job. I am doing some different things. I got really, really into astrology stuff last month. I had a ton of sessions. I had a newborn session, so still doing a little bit of photography work. We had our final first and last wedding of the year in the beginning of February. So there was a lot unfolding. Not to mention, we decided to get a dog on the same day as that January 21st new moon, and his name is Nash. And I do have a podcast episode specifically about him. If you go back, you can listen to Lessons from Puppyhood, which was that first week after we got him. But I call him my little good luck, new moon dog, because he has just ushered in so much amazing change into our lives, and he absolutely keeps us on our toes. But yeah, so I was doing all of that, taking care of the puppy, tapping, manifesting, this is going to happen. This is going to happen. And I will say that how I was feeling on the inside is I was feeling very hopeful. I was getting a little frustrated by the process. I was having a lot of mini meltdowns about how pessimistic I felt other people were treating me about my job search. I feel like there was a lot of projection at me around what kind of job I could qualify for, what the rates are right now, that I'm going to have to find an in-person job because nobody's hiring remote. Basically, anytime I said what I wanted, I'd have at least, if I told 5 people, at least 3.5 of them would pretty much squash my dreams, or just tell me it's not possible, or it's a pipe dream, or whatever. And I had to really stay strong against that and feel no, I'm not wearing rose-colored glasses. I am not crazy. I know what I want. I know it's possible. I know I'm good enough, and I'm just going to keep focusing on this. And I was filled with doubt at the same time. I believed it, but I was worried and scared that I was wrong. And I was really starting to panic, because as we were moving towards the end of February, I was like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? And then things change like that. They change so quickly. So I got an email on a Thursday afternoon. Hey, we'd love to meet with you next week. Set it up for Tuesday. Did a ton of research over the weekend. I mean, I did my homework. I focused. I planned. I went deep into the barrel, just making sure I was ready to go for this interview. Dave was so amazing. Like, he and I practiced with these practice questions. We went over all these different ideas of what to say or what not to say. And he was so helpful. He was so instrumental in this process. So Tuesday comes around and I have my first interview. And I will say that it got off to a shaky start. And I feel like I was kind of reluctantly passed to the second round. Mostly because of my resume, because of my experience or my lack of what they think is a technology background. But I actually do have a very strong technology background. And so I sneaked in and they said, put together a presentation. Let's see what you can do. Come back sometime in the next 48 hours. So I, being myself, I was like, what's the soonest possible that I could do this? I scheduled this interview was at 1:30 on Tuesday. I scheduled for 9 a.m. the next morning, literally. So 16 hours or something later. And I just put my nose to the ground. I hammered out a presentation. I put together a new keynote. I had already done my homework on the company. So I was just working with what I already knew. And the reason I wanted to do it so fast is because I was like, if this doesn't work out, I do not want to waste time in my process. And the other thing about me is that I hate being nervous. So I would just rather not be nervous by getting it over with as quickly as possible. So that was my strategy. And I got on and I had a great second interview. It went so well. They loved what I did. I feel like my personality really shined through. I got an awesome vibe from them. We had a great dialogue back and forth. And later that night, I was offered a position and I accepted it verbally, got the official paperwork done the next morning, and I start this week. Oh my God, it's boom, that is how fast life can change. I couldn't believe it. And what was so, just as I reflect on this process, I got the job interview right at the end of the lunar cycle, just right before. And the next new moon was late Monday night. So Tuesday, the day after, is when I had my first interview. It literally felt like this new moon energy, but just being new beginning. And I love that because my goal last lunar cycle was to manifest this job. And now it's to put all of this energy into this new beginning of my life, letting it unfold. And I'm so grateful and I'm so excited and I cannot wait to see how it unfolds. But there's so much that I want to say, but what I really, really want anybody who's still listening to this to take away is never let other people tell you how things are going to go. Sure, people love you, they want to protect you, or they've had a very specific experience in their life and they believe that that's the only way. But it does not have to be true. And I am a living example of this during a time when the market is a little challenging and things are crazy and I needed it really bad and I'm making this huge career transition. I don't know if it's a combination of just literal law of attraction through the tapping and through me knowing so crystal clear what I wanted, but it worked. And what's so crazy is somewhere along the way, I had actually used ZipRecruiter to upload my resume to and try it that way. And they have you put in your desired salary. And what I put in as my desired salary is exactly what my offer was. How crazy is that? It was amazing. I'm seriously filled with goosebumps just through this whole process. And I'm just so glad that I didn't stop believing that it was possible, even though I was scared, even though I was worried, even though there was some doubt or some hesitation. And I'm so grateful that I was able to, forge through, and that I didn't let the past 4 months of getting nowhere make me believe it wasn't possible anymore. So, of course, because nothing can just be easy in my life, I like when one thing changes, like, let's just throw it all to the wind or whatever. Dave and I have long been planning that as soon as I got my job, that we would be putting our house on the market so that we can find a place that's better suited for us. And right now we live in a 2-bedroom townhome. We have our 2 dogs now, and we want more space. So we're like, we're going to do it, putting the house on the market. So we spent the whole weekend getting the house ready. And oh my God. Oh my gosh, what an emotional weekend it was. It started with just a couple of things that our real estate agent had told us to do, just little packing things that would make it better to stage. So we started with that. And of course, one thing led to another. And now there's just lots of boxes, and we're getting rid of a lot of stuff. We have a lot of things to sell. Oh my gosh, it's kind of crazy. And then of course, we've lived in this house for 3.5 years. So there's been some normal wear and tear, especially because when you buy a new build, they paint your walls with flat paint. Now, they do this because it hides the imperfections of the walls, the places that it gets kind of dinged up. It's terrible to clean, and it scuffs super easily. So we had a lot of cleaning to do, and I had already known that this was going to be coming down the pipe, because we've known this for at least the last 4 months. As soon as we were set, we're going to make this change happen. And so when the change happened, it was like, okay, here we go. I had already gone and got our touch-up paint. So the builders had actually left us with like a quart of flat paint and a quart of the like semi-gloss for all of the wet rooms and the trim and stuff. And of course, we had already used that in the past 3.5 years. And so I knew the name of the paint. It's called Aspen White, and just FYI, I do not recommend it. And so I gotten the Aspen White and had it waiting. So Dave and I are like, okay, let's tackle this together. He's like, I've got the flat paint. I'm like, I'll go ahead. I'm going to wash the walls. Well, wash them the best that I could. And we're just going to knock this out. So we start near the garage and we start working our way around, and I'm getting ready to do the semi-gloss, and I'm like looking at the wall and I'm like, gosh, I hope this dries a little bit different. But paint does dry a little different. A little bit more time goes by and I'm like, oh, you know what? I better take the dogs outside, because it's been like an hour and a half, and pretty much the puppy needs to go outside every 2 hours. So I was going to go do that. And I turned the corner from where we started near the garage, and it's dry to the touch, and it is definitely the wrong color. So I'm like, Dave, stop. This is not okay. Like, do not go any further. Like, this is bad. And he's like, no, it's fine. This is how it was the last time. Like, it always looks different until it dries. And I'm like, no, this is different. So it's like this is another long story, but with this new build, we could not say what kind of color paint we wanted. We were given like a choice from 5 different color paints. This was like the base color that comes with the house, or we could pay like, I don't even remember, something crazy, like $5,000 to change the paint color to one of their 4 paint colors, like a gray, a brown, a blue, or something like that. And so we're like, well, we'll just go with the paint color. But I was kind of freaking out about the paint color, because in the very first model that we had been in with the lights on, I was like, I hate this shade of white. You have to remember, I've been working as a photographer for 10 plus years. I can tell the difference between a yellow white or a green white or a red white. Like, there are undertones to every white. And this Aspen White was absolutely like this yellow white. To me, it looked so dingy, like the way that like bleach turns white, kind of yellow. That's what it looked like. But when we actually got into our house, I was like, actually, this isn't as bad. Like, this seems just like a warm white, but not like a yellow white. So it's been fine. And we've never painted it. We never changed it. Because that was one of my things I thought was maybe we needed to get a quote for just getting it painted right before we moved all of our stuff in. But we never ended up doing that. So this paint color that is now literally all over the walls, from the garage, through the dining room, through the hallway, through up the staircase, and then in our main upstairs stairway. You guys, I don't even know how to describe this to you. It is like neon white, if you can picture this. It's like white, but the green and yellow undertone is so vibrant that it's literally like a neon color, especially compared to the white that it's next to. Because we just were doing touch-ups, just touch-ups, and not like tiny touch-ups like over like a hole, but like, because it was flat paint, like big chunks of the wall. So I have a mini heart attack because I'm like, we are screwed. How are we going to match this paint? What are we going to do? I call my realtor. Dave and I both just like, we put up our hands. We're like, we're going to have to hire painters. Like, this sucks. I mean, at least we only wasted a few hours and, like $100 on paint. That's great. Nothing can be easy. But I will say that after all of that, Dave and I were like, oh my gosh, well, let's go get a sandwich because food makes things better and we're starving now. So me and him and the dogs went to go get some food, and I was so mad in the car, just like sad and frustrated. I mean, this is like, feels like the last thing we needed when we're trying to get things going. But he just reminded me, like, this is something you just have to let go. And it's true. And so I'm letting it go. And it's just it's going to be a funny memory, a part of this process, and this too shall pass. And as I sit here Sunday night, getting ready to go into a brand new week of 40-hour work week and whatnot, and this new position and selling the house and lots of change in the air, I've been reflecting a lot around, what does it mean to be brave? What does it mean to have courage? I think that everything that I've done in my life, literally, if I have one thing that I feel very confident in, it is my ability to be courageous. And I want to touch on this for anyone who maybe struggles with courage or perhaps just doesn't see their own courage, how important and invaluable it is to stay connected to a courageous place inside of yourself. I think a lot of people think that in order to be courageous that you have to do crazy things. You have to be the kind of person that jumps out of airplanes or buys a ticket to Rome like on a 24-hour notice and does, spontaneous things or explorative things or adventurous things, which sure, all of those things require courage. But truly, courage is required. Like, bravery is required for anything that scares you, whether that's going into a second round of interviews with people that you're not even sure like you. That takes a lot of courage. Starting a business, leaving a business, or in another way of like starting a job and leaving a job, all of that takes courage. Changing careers takes courage. Loving another human takes courage, whether that's a partner that you want to share your life with, or whether that's having a baby and loving somebody that way, loving a parent, working through, challenges and relationships and friendships. All of that takes courage. Why? Because these things are scary. It is scary. And I've had a lot of big feelings coming up this weekend just with stepping into this new position and what is going to happen in the next phase of life as we have quickly outgrown this house and are ready for something new. What is going to come with that? What is that going to look like? And I've had a lot of fear come up. But the thing that has been kind of underwriting that fear, this current inside of me, is like, I am so afraid to admit that I'm afraid because of the amount of judgment that I feel I'm going to get, or the amount of people that are going to say, you shouldn't do that. Here's my opinion, blah, blah, blah. Like everyone will tell you what they think you should do because they're going to tell it through their lens of what they would do. So one of the things I've had to think a lot about this weekend is the fact that there are a lot of people out there who don't live their life in a courageous way. They don't try to go after new things. They're afraid of change. They don't put themselves out there. They play small. And to be honest, that's not how I would live my life. I guess that's the best way to put that. I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with that. And so if you feel that that's maybe a little bit more of your path, it maybe sticking with what you've known and really enjoying it and living that to the fullest, please know that I am your biggest cheerleader. You need to do what's best for you. But just as though I would encourage somebody, live courageously, do the things that scare you, try it, figure it out, trust yourself. And those people would say, no, that's not for me. We could also flip that. Why would I listen to people who are like, don't change, stay where you are, keep everything the same, don't try to go for something new, don't change your career, just stick with what's safe, when that's not what I want, when that's not how I would live my life. And so basically what I'm talking about here is these circles of influence. It's really important that when you are in a position where people are telling you what to do with your life, you really have to gut check it for a moment and say, is this a person who lives a life that I would want to live? Do I respect the way this person lives their life? Do I admire it? Do I want a similar vibe for myself? And if so, consider it. And if they don't, you can of course still consider it, right? I'm one of those people, I almost want to say unfortunately, I'm one of those people that no matter what, I tend to stop and listen to other people. It doesn't mean I'm going to agree. It doesn't mean I'm going to follow it, but I almost always, 99.8% of the time, I always take what anybody else says to me as something that I genuinely consider and find if it's true for me or not. So that's just to say that you can do that as well with these people. You can listen to them. But if they live a very different life than you live, it's okay to remember that they're still wonderful people and you can love them intensely, but they are not the people that are in your circle of influence, the people that you want supporting you and encouraging you and weighing in on your decisions, because those people will have something much different to say than the people who would be making very different decisions than you. And I will say, if this topic resonates with you, I would recommend listening to my past episode, which is about change. Change ain't easy. Growth is hard. I was reflecting on a lot of the precursor to this conversation, this idea that we are allowed to grow and change. And I'm just really feeling that right now. In fact, that is to kind of pull a through thread. Is that even a thing? I'm going to pull a thread through this entire conversation back to me stepping into this new job. One of the things that I felt afraid of when I started this journey was, oh my gosh, what is this going to be like? Is this going to be like, I've had some really bad bosses before. Is it going to be like that? Am I going to, just all the insecurities that come up. And one of the things that I had been working on with my therapist that I've been really, really trying to step into is that I have changed a lot over the past 6.5 years. In fact, it's funny because Dave and I got together right around the time that I went full time with my business. So much of my changes have come from being a business owner, and then also from, of course, the person that I'm with. He's in my circle of influence and the life that we're trying to build together, and the lessons I've learned from being with somebody who's gone through a life-changing illness, truly. And so I'm trying to remember that as I step forward with courage into this week ahead and into the expansion that is in front of me at this point in my life, that the things that used to scare me, like, for example, the week that we fell in love with this house and like put our earnest money down, I had a massive panic attack that blew out my entire nervous system and completely rocked probably 2 years after that of my life. And that was one of the catalysts that actually was what started A Bit From Within. Me wanting to share a little bit of that story is how I got the name A Bit From Within. But I bring that up to say, like, I was terrified to step into the role of like homeowner. And now I'm not that same person. Am I still a little afraid of what the process will look like to find and buy a new house? Yeah, I am scared. But that's the thing I've learned, is that just because something is scary, it doesn't mean it has to be bad. It doesn't mean that it's not going to work out. It doesn't mean that it needs to fill me with dread. In fact, the more I was reflecting on it this week, and the more I thought, some of the scariest things that I've been through in my life, the moments that I genuinely was filled with that kind of fear, like the fear around change and beginnings and shifts and the unknown, that kind of stuff. Every single time I did one of those things, it was one of my favorite life experiences. Like going away a week to Path of Love, which is this amazing like healing retreat. I was terrified. I cried on the way up there. I was like, oh, what am I doing? Best experience of my life. Moving in with Dave, amazing. Buying a house with Dave, amazing. Getting a second dog, terrifying, absolutely amazing. Starting a business, amazing. Showing up to shoot weddings after I had been dealing with panic attacks did not feel fun in the moment, but I'm so proud of myself now. Working at my past tech job, absolutely terrifying. I never thought I could do it. Changed my life and opened up this gateway that I'm stepping into now, 6 years later. Amazing. Starting a podcast. So scary, so awesome. Getting onto TikTok. Now I have 15,000 followers, and that feels like crazy, and I'm so excited about that. Like, every scary thing that I have done has been worth it. And I'm just trying to really embody that, scary feelings do not have to be an indicator that you should or shouldn't do something. Because if you let that be your indicator, it will hold you back from some of the best experiences of your life. All right, guys, I think I'm going to leave it there today. Especially because I got to go to bed because I got to wake up early. My new company works on East Coast time, so I'm going to be waking up a lot earlier than I'm used to. But let's go ahead and do a card drawing here to close today's episode. This deck that I've got in my hands right now is the Super Attractor deck by Gabrielle Bernstein. And so we'll just see which card wants to come through and how the universe wants to contribute to today's conversation. Wow. This says, I can do less and attract more. Whew. Sorry, this one has got me a little bit. It I literally have goosebumps up and down my arms. Just, I didn't talk on that a lot. I don't know if that will translate for you, this idea that, just with all of the manifesting that I have done. And I think the reason that this speaks to me so much is it truly does feel like the card of where I am right now, but it makes me think of the girl that I used to be, feeling like the only way I could have more was to do more. And I used to spin my wheels out every single day in every single way, whether it was relationship or business or work or just life, food, regular exercise, that kind of thing. I always thought I had to constantly prove myself in order to have more. And I am just so feeling grateful for this card right now as I head into this week, that I don't have to do more in order to have more. In fact, I can do less, and I can maybe even go into a little bit of that Pisces mode of just standing back a hair, slowing down a second, seeing the big picture, realizing what I have to offer. And maybe from that place, more will come, more ideas, being of more service, bringing more into my life. Whew, that feels so good. And it also makes me feel like it is all going to be okay, juggling everything that I'm doing with A Bit From Within, along with this big job. I can do less and attract more. I have no plans to share with you guys on that, because my current plan is just to keep going and see where that takes me. Okay. So if you were curious, that's where I'm at with that right now. I'm sure that as life unfolds, I will keep you updated, but my intention is to keep up with everything that I love. And this is what I love. You guys know that. So thank you for letting me share A Bit From Within with you today. I hope that it has meant something to you as it does for me. Please take really good care of yourself. Know that there's tons of ways that you can connect with me online. And if I can ask just one thing from you, it'd be, have an amazing week. Pay it forward where you can. And with that said, I will talk to you next time.